This video will cover typical steps to rectify the pipe ID 1, or whatever that may be in your case, internal diameter equals 0 error that you may receive when trying to run a calculation. We'll be debugging this in the Revit environment, but basically it's the same concept for both the desktop and Revit world. So in this situation, we can go to the Pipe Sections tab, and you'll notice that there is an ID column here, which is just numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. So when you receive a message that says Pipe ID 1, internal diameter equals 0, that is referring to the row in this table here where that ID value corresponds with the one in the error message. If I were to rectify this error real quick, you'll see that I now have a pipe ID 2, internal diameter equals 0, so you can see that's now referring to row number 2 here, and I could rectify it as well, and then you can see the calculations will run successfully. So with that said, I'll get back to an error state here by just updating based off of my Revit model, and we now have the same situation we started with. We'll toggle the calculations off and on to bring the error back, and we'll tell you how to address it. So the root cause of this is that you've assigned a pipe schedule and diameter combination that does not have an internal diameter within the component database. If I were to open up our component manager here, go to Pipes, Steel, Eddy Flow, Bull Moose, and then go to the Pipe Data tab, you can see that we have values filled in here for a number of different diameters, but you'll notice that we do not have one filled in for the 6-inch pipe diameter, which is what was called out here in the pipe table and what was utilized within the Revit model. A helpful step of verifying this is by using the little look at or locate pipe button. This will take you to the starting section or the start of that section in the model, so you can then click on the pipe, see that it was a pipe type called underground, and this will help you debug it further to say, okay, I had some 6-inch pipe that I called underground, how can I go about fixing that? In the Revit world, we can bring back up our mapping dialog, and we can do that through the View Map button up on the ribbon. We can locate our underground pipe, which is our first entry here, pipe, underground, ductile iron class 350, and we can change this to a mapping that would have a 6-inch pipe, so we probably want this to actually be cement line ductile iron. So we just change that mapping, click Build Pipe Table, and then we'll see that the calculation error message goes away, and we now have results again. If you're dealing with this in the standalone world or on the desktop version, it's the same solution. You come and switch to a valid pipe schedule and pipe diameter combination. Another situation you might encounter is that you are using an odd pipe size like 5-inch or 3.5-inch, which wouldn't typically be seen on new systems. So if I were to go and insert a new supply here on this pipe, set some characteristics up, which I could skip for the sake of this, but I'll set that up. And now if I run the trace pipe command again, we'll have this new default pipe type to map. So I could map this to cement line ductile iron, or I'll just do schedule 40 right now. Click Build Pipe Table, and you can see that we're receiving the same errors. And if we look at the OpenUI pipe sections, you can see we have a 5 and a 3.5-inch entry here. And now if we were to go back into our component manager, which we can do through the ribbon or up at the top of the screen here, go to our pipes, steel, schedule 40, pipe data. You can see that we don't have a 3.5 or a 5-inch value filled in here. If you really need to use those sizes, you could make your own version of it. So I'll call this schedule 40, legacy, and I just right-clicked and duplicated the existing schedule 40, click OK, and I'll now have my own copy of schedule 40 that I can fill the data in for. So I have a little snippet here with some values from NFPA. So if you were to actually do this, you bring back up your component manager, we would fill in the schedule 40 5-inch and 3.5-inch internal diameters. So at 3.5-inch, we have 3.548 inches At 5 inches, we had 5.047, and then now we can assign our items to use that pipe type. So we could go into the front end, and again, this would apply to the desktop, and change this from Schedule 40 to our Schedule 40 legacy, and you'll see it's now pipe ID 3 that has the issue, and change that to Schedule 40 legacy as well. And then at this point, we need to add a sprinkler on that piping network to run the calculations. An alternative solution is, again, in the Revit world, to go into View Map, Component Name, map this to our Schedule 40 legacy, build the pipe table, and then now if I look at our pipe table again, we can see that all the elements are pointed to Schedule 40 legacy and would now have internal diameters that we could utilize for them. These are the basic steps for debugging that situation. Again, the key points are that the ID in the error message is pointing you to which row in the pipe sections table is having a problem there, and this will let you work backwards either to your Revit model or to your component manager dataset to get your pipe schedules and diameters set up appropriately for the calculation. Now, obviously, a tertiary option for rectifying this would be to utilize standard sizes. So again, if I were to switch this to a 6-inch and this last one to just a 3-inch, I could then trace the pipe and then use my original Schedule 40. But again, this is going to depend on what you're actually designing in the project, if you've got a retrofit situation or something like that.